Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Boston Food Access Council final quarterly public meeting of the year. It is December already, somehow, and the end of the year is fast approaching. So for those of you that know us, you know that we meet about once every quarter. So this is our last one for 2021. My name is Lauren Colombo. I am one of the co-chairs of the steering committee. My pronouns are she, her. And I also, in my day job, serve as the Chief Operating Officer at Lovin' Spoonfuls Food Rescue, which is a Boston-based organization. What you'll see here on the screen, just to get underway for the evening, is just a listing of our current steering committee members. Many of them are on the meeting with us this evening. Annalise is waving. She's also a co-chair representing community members. We have Marcos Beleche, also a community member, Joy Gary, a community member, Nicole St. Louis, a community member, Catherine Lynn, an organizational member representing the Greater Boston Food Bank, Victoria Strickland, an organizational member representing About Fresh. And just a note, she recently took over the spot for Megan Huang, who had previously been serving as an organizational member for About Fresh. We have Yasser Aponte, who is serving as an organizational member representing the Food Project, serving sort of, I don't know how to say this properly, but alongside, I'll say, Maritza Rosario. Both of them represent the Food Project. And then finally, Christine Keller, who is our final organizational member who represents the Fourth Presbyterian Church in South Boston. And then last but not least, we would not be here this evening without our fall intern, Camille, who has been with us since the beginning of September and has been behind every BFAC email, every BFAC social media post, every BFAC document that has been put together for the last 4 months. And so we are grateful to her. We still have her for one more month, and you'll continue to hear from her over the next few weeks as we transition into the new year. But thank you, Camille. So today we are going to kick off the meeting. I'll run through a couple meeting norms and our value statement. We will then launch into a quick survey just to get everyone acquainted with our Q&A platform for the evening. We'll follow that with an introduction to how we plan to run community updates for this evening's meeting. We'll follow that with an update on our recent bylaws update. Then we'll share some updates from BFAC, followed by our annual steering committee elections. So every year we have elections, and tonight is the night. We'll have some brief breakout rooms just to get to know everybody in the room, and then we will launch into some updates from our working groups, and finally we'll have those community updates, and then we'll recap some next steps. Please do pay attention to the chat. We will continue to share links throughout the evening that are important there. So just some quick Zoom rules to orient everyone, like as if you haven't heard all of these things before, but I think it's always just good to remind everybody. Please do use the sign-in form, which we will share in the chat, to mark that you are present. That helps us to track everybody's commitment and attendance in BFAC meetings so that we know who is a voting member. This meeting, as you heard at the top, is being recorded, and I'm going to pause now because Spanish interpretation is available. And Miguel, if you wouldn't mind coming off mute to just say that in Spanish, that'd be helpful.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Miguel. Yo voy a ser el intérprete en el idioma español esta noche. Por favor, si usted necesita interpretación, dé clic en el botón en forma de globo en la parte inferior derecha, que se va a activar en unos segundos. Usted da clic ahí, selecciona el idioma español y puede ser capaz de escuchar esta reunión en el idioma español. Si tiene algún problema con la selección del icono, déjenos saber en el chat. Gracias.
Thank you, Miguel. And just so you know, Miguel, for your purposes, the other interpreter's not here yet. So I will continue to let you know if they have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For anyone that would like to do as Catherine just did, go ahead and share your name and organization, your pronouns, and your neighborhood community in the chat box. Please do keep yourself muted at all times unless you are called on to speak. And we'll introduce the Slido Q&A, but that's an option for anonymous Q&A. If you also want to openly ask a question, and identify yourself, you're welcome to do so in the chat. And we will continue, as I said, to use the chat feature to share links and other information throughout the meeting. Okay, now our meeting norms. At BFAC, these are the meeting norms that we set to make sure that we are creating good spaces for productive conversations in our meetings. And they are. We will work to create a safe space for people with lived experience and recognize all it takes to speak truth to power. We will hear feedback, critique, and experiences as opportunities for growth and not as personal offenses. Everyone is encouraged to participate. You may be asked to share what you think, or we may ask for comments from those who haven't spoken, and it's always okay to pass when you are asked to share a comment. When you speak, please be brief and to the point, and when you speak, state your name and where you live, and that especially goes for tonight as we're in a public meeting. Treat others with respect as you disagree or agree and value what's being shared. When in doubt, ask for clarification. Every participant's voice will be respected. Step up and step back, allow space for others to contribute. And always remember that we are working within a broken food system, and any critique of the emergency food system is a reflection of that and not a personal critique of someone's work or intent. And then we also have our values statement. That is that we are here to bring together residents, activists, thought leaders, organizations, farmers, researchers, and other diverse stakeholders to address equitable food access in the city of Boston, recognizing its role in the larger Massachusetts food system. The BFAC asserts that consistent access to healthy, nutritious, affordable, and culturally appropriate food is a basic human right. BFAC seeks to create an anti-racist, inclusive, and participatory culture of learning by building trusting and transformational relationships within the community by engaging residents with lived experience and hunger. BFAC aims to ground itself in a power-sharing model that honors and values all voices at the table, treating each with dignity and respect, and is trauma-informed and self-critical. And finally, BFAC seeks to offer a space to help provide an equitable, community-centered platform for food access, affordability, and economic opportunity. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're going to be using a platform called Slido to conduct a couple polls, as well as run Q&A. If you'd like to ask anonymous Q&A questions throughout the evening, this is the platform to do so. So you should all be able to either go to slido.com and enter that number 513-483, I believe it says, or you can just scan the QR code with your phone and you can pop it open. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll. And what you should see once you're there, once you've either gone to slido.com and entered 513-483 or scanned the QR code with your phone, you should see a question up that says, what sector of the food system do you work in? This isn't a quiz. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just to acquaint you with utilizing the platform because this is the tool that we will be using tonight and going forward to make sure that we are creating opportunities for engagement within the meetings. If you don't see it, if you pop open and you're on the Q&A button, just click over to where it says polls. There should be a little green dot next to it that indicates that there is a live poll going. And I will continue to leave that open. We have 28 attendees on the meeting and we've got about 12 responses so far. Let's see if I can switch over to presenting. With me for a moment. There's only so many things that I can have open on my screen at once. But I think you actually, if you're on the screen of the poll, you can actually see the results. So perhaps I won't attempt in the moment to actually get this up and running. Okay. So far you can see that out of 16 results that have been submitted, 44% is leading in the front with advocacy and policy work, followed by 31% who said other, 31% who said I don't work in the food sector, We've got folks working in food recovery, education, and so on and so forth down the list. So an interesting mix of folks in the room, and this will continue to update. So I'll leave it open for one more minute. If anyone is having trouble accessing it, please let us know. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop this poll and I'm gonna activate our next poll, which is an open-ended question. And hopefully you can see that one now, which the question is just, what is your favorite restaurant in Boston? Again, no right or wrong answers. We're just trying to make sure that everyone is comfortable using the Slido platform, which we'll continue to use for meeting engagement. And also, you know, people are always looking for good restaurant recommendations, so share away. You'll think this one you all cannot see the results to, so I'll read them to you. We have Angela's Cafe, we have Daryl's Corner Kitchen and Bar, we have Mai Tai, Copa, Taqueria Jalisco in East Boston, Slade's, Salty Pig, Carmelina's, Fasica Cafe, Industry. Another vote for Copa. That's the only one that got 2 so far. Oleana, Sarma, and Sofra. Okay, so someone is a big Anna Sartuni fan and couldn't choose just one. Great. Well, thank you everybody for sharing your favorites. We'll go ahead and continue on with the meeting, and maybe I can drop the poll results into the mix later. Okay, so another way that we are fostering engagement in our meetings is through the use of community updates. If you are representing an organization or a community and you have something that you would like to share this evening, please find Yasser Aponte in the chat and send him a message. Later in the evening, towards the end of the meeting, he will cue each of you in that have identified an interest in sharing one of those updates, and he'll sort of ask you all to unmute one at a time and present those updates. We do ask that you try to keep those updates to just, you know, a couple minutes, but these can be anything. If you have a job posting rather that you'd like to share, if you have an event that you'd like to share, if you have just, you know, some other information that you think the community should be aware of, this community in particular, please do go ahead and contact Yasser in the chat and he will be ready to cue you in later. Okay, so the last thing that you're going to hear from me about is just a recap of a special bylaws meeting that we held earlier. I was going to say earlier this month. That was last month in November. For folks that know, we have been, I should say, sort of operating under the current iteration of BFAC since the beginning of 2020. Members of the current steering committee were elected either at the end of 2019 or the end of 2020, and those of us that were serving at the beginning of 2020 spent the first few months of the year working to draft a set of bylaws that would dictate how we operate as an organization. We finished those bylaws draft right around the end of February, and we held our first public meeting, I believe it was like March 3rd or something of 2020. And then, as you all know, by this point, a week later, COVID changed everything. And our bylaws were not written in a format that allowed for virtual meetings or virtual voting like we'll do later tonight. They were not written in a way that provided consistent commitments, I would say, from both steering committee and working group leads. And they certainly were not written in a way that actually protected the representation of community members on our steering committee. And so earlier this year, the current steering committee spent a bunch of time sort of reviewing them and identifying ways that we could continue to improve the bylaws going forward. And what we did is we shared a blog post back in October that outlined all of the changes that we hoped to make. And then we sent a couple emails to make sure that everyone was aware that we were doing this. We had a special meeting on November 18th, and public comment was open until November 11th. And then finally, we had the meeting, and everyone voted to approve the updated bylaws. So there's no major changes, like I said. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Just the key things to know is that we did identify the need to maintain 4 steering committee seats for community members. So that means that at no point will there be more than 5 organizational members on the steering committee moving forward. And again, that really works to ensure that this is a community-led effort. It also sets the working group chair terms to 2 years, and that mirrors the terms of steering committee members so that we can build consistency year over year. It increased meeting frequency. We were already meeting more frequently, but it didn't say that in the bylaws, and we felt like that cadence was necessary, both monthly meetings for the steering committee as well as for working groups to ensure that the progress continued. It allowed us to adapt voting for virtual meetings. We've had to do it anyways, but now our bylaws actually stipulate that. And then we also worked to simplify the amendment process. That was really important because we can never really get all 300 members of BFAC in the same space, certainly not these days. And so we needed to make sure that we were simplifying that process. If you have any questions at all, you can always shoot us an email to talk further about that. But it's, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. And so with that, we're going to flip it over to talk about some other updates coming from BFAC. And Catherine, if you are here, you should be able to go ahead and unmute. I can hear you.
I am. Thank you, Lauren. So actually, you gave a little bit of history of BFAC, and I think that's important to sort of start this conversation. So first of all, for those of you, as another reminder, we independently, we originally were affiliated with the Mayor's Office of Food Access. And in 2019, as Lauren indicated, independently created our own organization separate from the mayor's office, and for a lot of different reasons. And one of the reasons was so that we could be able to fundraise on our own and do the initiatives that we wanted to do sort of independent from the city, but then in partnership. But a key piece to this is that fundraising piece. We started a working group around fundraising. And I think one of the challenges is if you are to fundraise, you need a nonprofit status to be able to receive those donations. So I think that's been the biggest sort of problem that working group has had to work through and try and solve for us. So over the last couple of years, we've worked with a pro bono legal counsel, Kirkland and Ellis, and we have tried to explore some different options for either obtaining a 501c3 status or a fiscal sponsorship status. There are pros and cons to both, and as a young, somewhat newly organized organization, worked with that, with the fundraising working group. They did a lot of research with this pro bono lawyer, lots of conversations with the steering committee to understand what the best path forward was. And ultimately we decided with the fiscal sponsorship route. So, we really identified 2 different fiscal sponsorships or organizations that offer fiscal sponsorship, I should say. And the 2 options were the Marian Institute and the nonprofit incubator, or NOPI. And ultimately we decided that NOPI was the best fit for our organization for a number of reasons. And I wanted to share just a little bit more about that organization. I'm going to drop the website into the chat just so people can peruse their website and maybe learn a little bit more about fiscal sponsorships and kind of the services they offer. But essentially, in kind of shorthand, what is a fiscal sponsorship? It's as a 501c3 organization. NOPI provides administrative services, technical assistance, fiduciary oversight, and in some cases, risk management to organizations, groups, individuals engaged in charitable work. And essentially what we would get with NOPI's fiscal sponsorship is really that support, that administrative support, the bookkeeping, and that nonprofit status to be able to accept financial donations. So just a little bit more, it's a small women-owned business. Their mission is really to empower nonprofits and charitable projects in erasing systemic inequities and solving economic challenges through technical assistance, intermediary support, and fiscal sponsorship. They've worked with a number of other social justice projects, many here located right here in Massachusetts. And so we're really excited about this development. It takes about a month to apply for that application. The application is in process and expected to submit it within the next week or so. So our hope is that in the new year, and by the time we have our next meeting, we'll have a fiscal sponsorship. So that's sort of the update there. I think the other important piece to this is that there is a requirement to fundraise and have around $20,000 a year fundraised. So we'll be applying for that fiscal sponsorship, and in the process, we'll also try to identify some fundraising opportunities to make sure we get that funding in place for the year. Which brings me to the next slide around reviving our fundraising working group. So as I said, this fundraising working group has primarily been initially focused on, exploring this question that we've had around making sure that we're able to fundraise legally. And I think that now that we've sort of solved that problem, we have a path forward. We really want to reinvigorate this group and be able to put in a leadership team, the chairs of that group, and a full working group with some experience and some ideas to bring to bear on how do we fundraise and really to move forward some of the fiscal sponsorship pieces forward. So really, this is a call to action, a call for service, some leadership opportunities within BFAC. And I think obviously later today, we're going to be having elections for steering committee members. Obviously that's it's a democratically elected process, but for co-chairs, that is purely voluntary. So maybe those who potentially don't make the steering committee, or those who weren't even in that pool, this is a great opportunity to just step up and take a more of an ownership and leadership opportunity within the council. So we'll share more information about this, but if you're interested in participating and stepping into this role, you can reach out to any one of the steering committee members, and we can put you in place for that. Another just sort of update here I just wanted to share is that in addition, sorry to go back to the last or the next slide about the fundraising working group. So an exciting update. So obviously we've got the fiscal sponsorship in place. And another exciting update is that we do have a commitment from a local Boston-based organization to provide a $5,000 match. And so one of the things that we want this fundraising team to work on is that sort of matching campaign and figuring out how to use that sort of $5,000 and seed funding to help inspire potentially some other larger organizations to throw some money in the pool to support our organization, or potentially even doing a fundraising campaign to solicit smaller donations. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here, but that is sort of a way in which we're hoping that we're going to position this working group to be successful in this next calendar year. So that is that. And then I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else. I think that that's it on the fundraising working group. For the next update, also sort of tied to this fundraising conversation and potentially another funding opportunity for BFAC is this federal funding that has come down from the federal government to the state and to the city. If anyone has been following some of the state budget process or state process around ARPA, actually, there is supposed to be an announcement about a state budget today. I haven't seen anything just yet. But the city as well also received a huge amount of billions of dollars of this American Rescue Plan Act funding, or ARPA. It is one of the a couple of the omnibus packages that the federal government passed for COVID relief. So this funding is in the hands of the city. There has been some process around allocating those funds to different initiatives. I think because of the transition with the mayor, the new administration, that process will likely be abrupted and changed in some way, shape, or form. And we're yet to hear more about that. But I think for those of you who did attend the Office of Food Access listening group focus groups, there was some discussion about how those funds could be used. And I know that we've had some conversations within the steering committee, within some different working groups, particularly the policy and advocacy working group around, is there an opportunity here to advocate on behalf of BFAC? So it could be another funding opportunity. I think more to come on this, and we'll have more conversations within the working groups in coming weeks, but wanted to make sure that this was included in the overall sort of funding conversation, because I think there's an opportunity for BFAC to advocate and seek some funding from the city and advocate around ARPA funding for us all. So more to come on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think now we are going to move on to elections, but I'll just give it a minute to make sure there's no other questions that pop up in the chat. Just sort of saying out loud what's been answered here so far, which is that Sarah will be sure to include the link to the bylaws document in the email that will be sent after tonight's meeting. And Christine also clarified that there's not an upfront requirement with NOPI, but we are asked to fundraise $20,000 annually. Okay. And sorry for my PowerPoint sort of hecticness there during Catherine's talking. I had to set a Zoom thing in the background at the same time. Apparently you can't do while presenting. So thanks everyone for bearing with us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria Strickland to talk about our election process.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tori Strickland, and I'm just going to remind us real quick about it, or update anyone else who's newer to the process on how steering committee elections work. So generally for steering committee elections, terms are about 2 years long. Elections occur around this time, so December of every BFAC meeting. This year's elections are going to run through December of 2023. And we have about 4 or 5 seats that are up for election this year. And we are filling 3 open community representative positions, as well as 2 organizational positions as well. So the general process that you can expect to happen after tonight's meeting is that we will send out an election form. You will have until Friday, December 3rd, to complete that election form and to vote for the committee members. And votes will be tallied over the weekend, and we will update everyone, as well as announce new steering committee members next week. So we will head into giving each of the community candidates a chance to speak. So, and of course, please correct me if I say anyone's name incorrectly, and apologies in advance for any butchering that takes place. So I appreciate your patience with me. So our first candidate is going to be Lissy Guerrero of East Boston.
I don't see her in the attendee list, Tori.
Okay. I can also.
But Lizzie, if you're here under any other name, please do unmute yourself. I think just keep moving through.
All right. So I see Cheryl. So Cheryl Jean, all areas of Boston. So I'll give you the minutes to talk.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually, I wrote down all areas of Boston because the work that I do now, I'm the director of the Lower Roxbury Coalition, and we service all of Boston. I've been born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, Mappin, of Haitian parent descent. I'm excited to have the opportunity to be a candidate for a steering committee for the Boston Food Access Council. Like I said in my entry letter, I am passionate about the work that I do in the community. I've been working in the community for 25 years as an advocate. I am currently the director of Lower Roxbury Coalition. I am the founder of Single Mothers for Change. A lot of the work that I do in the community is really supporting our families and supporting the work, helping to support some of the challenges that our families are facing. Food insecurity really, came to be one of the biggest challenges in Boston because of COVID-19 and because of the pandemic. And I felt like together, one of the biggest things that came out of that is the fact that a lot of organizations came together so that we were able to, support our families in the community, make sure that every family had food in any necessary that they needed. This opportunity for me would be a chance to work with different individuals from organizations to support the work that they're doing, to support the work that I'm doing in the community, and also together to support our families and make sure that families have food on the table and have access to food in any which way. And I'm committed to this and excited to be here tonight.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. All right. Our next candidate is Ryan Monteiro of Dorchester.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you for
you're
having
good.
me.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Ryan. I'm originally from the Cape Cod area. I relocated to Boston about maybe 6 years now. Functionally, I'm like a health communication specialist. I work in public health, but contextually, why I was interested in this candidacy was to bridge the gap between city and state initiatives in our tribal communities. I myself am a citizen of the Aquinnah Wampanoag tribe based out of Martha's Vineyard. And food is a huge issue for us, especially for community health, in terms of policy, in terms of access, in terms of cultural preservation. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity to make sure that representation was also here on the city level, as we have a really robust and thriving urban Indian community. I just feel like sometimes we're left out of the conversation, and that's not always intentional, but we just don't know what's happening. So yeah, that's all I have for today, and I hope I can get your support.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, Barbara Gross of Dorchester. I'm not sure if Barbara's on here either. All right.
I'll move on to the next slide.
All right, we'll head over to our next set of candidates. So the next group of presenters are going to be going for the organizational seats. So Arthur Almeida of Boston Missionary Baptist Community Center.
Yes, hello, good evening, everybody.
Hi.
And I'm so glad to be part of this great organization. Like I said, my name is Arthur Almeida. My plan was to sit down with my computer in and to do the meeting, but unfortunately I had a case where I have to go to hospital, especially the mental health hospital for intake for one of the clients I'm serving. So I'm still on the road, so forgive me for that. And not be able to go accordingly what to be in the meeting. So after Almeida, I get the organization of BMBCC, the Boston Missionary Baptist Community Center at 336 Dudley Street. It's been there about 10 years ago. And so I born and raised in Haiti. Just came about 20 years ago. I came over. For this program, we do have an English computer class and healthcare class. Also, we do have a food pantry thanks to Food Bank, Greater Boston Food Bank. We allow us to get a lot of food for the Haitian community, basically Haitian community. But now, since the pandemic, we have all kinds of community around Roxbury. A lot of Cape Verdean, Hispanic, Black and Brown community. They all gathered down there. So we all distribute about 500 turkey this year. Even though we have a shortage of turkey, I prepared for that because I know I serve a large population in need. That I'm very glad to be part of this community. I've been with you guys since the beginning. Then you got some great information. I would like to be part of it so I can represent really my community and for anything, because we do delivery food, food pantry, other churches and shelters, elderly family. People who have problems with transportation. So it's a great community to be part of it, so we can extend our work. So that's the reason why I'm trying to be part of this committee, so we can serve better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Audit. That was great. All right, next we have Sandra Lorena Almenihar of the East Boston Community Soup Kitchen. I'm not sure if I see Sandra on here either. So we'll keep rolling to Lauren Palumbo of Lovin' Spoonfuls. Hello, Lauren.
Thanks, Tori. Hi, everyone. I know you've probably heard enough of me this evening, but as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, I was elected to the steering committee at the end of 2019 and served my 2021 term as co-chair of the steering committee. And I am rerunning for a second term. If you want to read our bylaws, which we'll share after the meeting, steering committee members are eligible to run for a second term, but only a second term. And so really the reason that I'm running again is that we've really just begun to make some really exciting progress at BFAC. We have some really fantastic working group chairs. We have a lot of fresh energy, both that has recently come into the steering committee, but also that will come into the steering committee with this election this evening. And I'm committed to this work in my full-time day job. As I said at the top, I'm the chief operating officer at Lovin' Spoonfuls. We're a food recovery organization, and I've worked there for almost 9 years now. We're based in Boston. We're a statewide organization, but we serve dozens of organizations across every neighborhood of Boston. I'm a resident of Boston. I've lived in Boston for over 20 years, and I currently reside in Jamaica Plain. And I'm very, very committed to this work. So that said, I will just acknowledge I have been on the steering committee for 2 years, and there are lots of really fantastic candidates. So if you firmly believe that other folks should get a chance, please, I will just know I will not take offense from that. As I said, I'm committed to this work and continuing to see it through, but I also think it's important that we bring new energy in. So that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Lauren. Rachel Orchard of the Women's Lunch Place. Let's see if we can see Rachel on here. I'm not sure if I see Rachel on here either. So we'll head over to Leah Triscari of ABCD.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Triscari. I work, as mentioned, at ABCD. I've been there for about 9 years. I actually was on the BFAC way back before it got its new incarnation. So from 2017 to 2019, I was on the council or the committee. And I was then on the transition committee to try and help set up some framework for what the committee has now become. I've really appreciated watching it grow and become what it is today, which is amazing. So I thank everyone for their hard work in doing that. I know that we didn't necessarily leave it in a great spot when we walked away. So at ABCD, I work in the planning department, so I get to do lots of different program development and evaluation for our very large breadth of services. Specifically, my program areas of interest are food related. And during the pandemic, I was able to kind of push the agency to think about food security a little bit more globally and in a little bit more consumer friendly way. And I think that's something that sometimes these large organizations that are bound by funders and specific ways to get their food don't necessarily get the opportunity to hear the community voice. So that is that's what I try to bring to my work, and I hope that you give me your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leah. And then lastly, we have Gabrielle Witham of Project Bread.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Witham. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships at Project Bread. I think most folks are probably familiar with us, but for those who aren't, we are an anti-hunger organization that works statewide to advocate for policies and programs that support reliable access to food. So SNAP, HIP, school meals, summer eats, and we connect people to food resources through our food source hotline. So my role at Project Bread as Director of Community Partnerships, I'm working with community-based organizations and local hunger networks and food policy councils across the state to really learn about local barriers to food access and bring some visibility to the important work that's happening on the ground. So our offices at Project Bread are based in East Boston, and many of our strongest partners are located in the greater Boston area. So we're really committed to supporting that work that's being done by the Boston Food Access Council and having a central role in its development. So I kind of bring all of the resources and perspectives of Project Bread to BFAC, but I also see food access through the lens of my previous role. I worked for over 6 years at the East Boston Neighborhood Health Center in East Boston. And there I was managing the East Boston Farmers Market. I was coordinating a community garden for patients. I was running a CSA program, supporting food distributions through the Red Cross and Fair Foods, doing a lot of outreach in the community around SNAP and HIP, and teaching nutrition and cooking classes in schools and community-based settings. And so I think I bring kind of a diverse perspective from both healthcare and like policy, from the immigrant community, also from local food producers, and having worked so closely with them over the years, and my own perspective growing up in a food insecure home. So I would also be able to contribute a little bit of what I've learned just from working with the other food access and hunger networks and food policy councils across the state. So would look forward to hopefully using this context to provide some guidance and direction to BFAC in achieving the goals that you've already worked so hard towards in the last couple of years. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabriel. That's great. All right. So next we're headed into our breakout rooms. So looking at the prompts here on the screen, when you get to your rooms, it'll just be a great time to open up some conversations coming off of holiday, as well as just learning a bit more about where everyone's work has been over the past year. So what are some food related changes you're looking forward to in the next year? Is it cooking related? Is it health related? Is it new legislation, new grocery stores, anything of that nature that gets you excited looking ahead into the next year? And also even looking back. So what are the ways you've impacted the food scene this year, maybe organizationally or individually over the past year throughout 2021? And lastly, what food traditions do you have for your holiday celebrations, whether they be winter traditions, cultural traditions, family traditions? Love to hear those in those breakout rooms. All right.
Okay, I'm going to open all of the rooms. They are randomly assigned, but just know that there is either a steering committee member or a working group member in every single group, I believe. So you should have opportunities to sort of, share any thoughts that you have with those of us that are in leadership roles at BFAC. So everyone, go ahead and join your rooms. Thank you. Welcome back. Give a few more seconds. A couple rooms are going to get.
We want to hear more, I think.
Yeah, they are still talking. Okay, there we go. Now we've got everybody back, I think. Hopefully. All right. Well, I hope everyone had some good conversations, and look forward to reconvening as a steering committee to hear what everybody discussed. But if there's anyone that has anything that they'd like to share before we move into working group updates, I'm happy to open the floor. Okay. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed it. Okay, so I'm going to turn the mic over to Annalise to introduce some updates from our working groups.
Hi, yes, so we just have our working group chairs. We're inviting them to give some updates. So first up, we have Policy and Advocacy, Sarah Monago and Chloe Miller.
Thank you, Annalise, and thank you, everyone. It was really nice to be in those breakout rooms and meet a couple people, so I appreciate that, y'all. But yeah, so I am a co-chair of the Policy and Advocacy Working Group here at BFAC, and unfortunately Sarah is unable to join us tonight, so I'm just going to take it away with a somewhat brief update. So in the months following our mayoral forum in August, we had a pretty quiet time, but we did get the privilege of kind of spearheading a letter that was sent to Mayor Wu post her election, which was really exciting. And we just heard back from her team I think last week, and we're anticipating having a scheduled meeting to discuss some of our visions and identifying some ways that her office can support our efforts in Boston. And then we are looking forward in the next month or so to drafting an ARPA asks letter for BFAC, just kind of highlighting all the points that we want to cover as BFAC, some of our ARPA provisions that we've highlighted through some of those meetings that we had last month. And other than that, we've had some awesome food system leaders. Pat Baker was able to join us. Lisa Damon from Mass Farm to School was able to join us last month. So we've just been having some wonderful collaborations, continue to monitor some of the coalitions like the Feed Kids Coalition, whose bill will hopefully be heard in the coming month or so. And we're going to formally begin monitoring some more relevant legislation and hope to create a more formal policy platform and policy agenda with the help of some of our members, policy and advocacy teams. So updates to come in the next meeting on where we're at in creating a policy agenda. And hopefully by then we'll have some bills passed as well. So yep, that's about it from us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chloe. Next, we have the Mayor's Food Access Agenda Working Group report out by Christine Becker and Hei-Ann Kim.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, everyone. I just want to check, are our slides included in this report? Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Camille. I appreciate that. So those who I have not met, my name is Christine Becker. As you see, I'm co-chair for the Mayor's Food Access Agenda. I have the pleasure of working alongside Hei-Ann Kim, who is the Deputy Director with the Office of Food Access. So for those that might be new to BFAC, and considering the fact that this is our last meeting in 2021, we thought it might be helpful just to give a quick introduction of who we are and what we're doing. Those who do not know, our working group kicked off in June. And so we have spent the last several months doing many online surveys, live polls, brainstorming sessions, open discussions to try and understand which goal we would be adopting as a group from the Mayor's Food Access Agenda. I I'm not going to read the slide in terms of who we are. This is actually on the Boston Food Access Council website. But I do think it's important to know that what we are focusing on is goal number 2, which is to strengthen and connect existing programs to better serve the community, not overlap efforts, and use resources more efficiently. The objective that's included in that is to organize opportunities to convene and develop the Food Access Network in Boston. Hayen and I had the pleasure of meeting with several of our working group members one-on-one on an initiative that we call Coffee and Connect. We were able to hear from each person in more of an intimate setting in terms of time commitments, skills, interests. And then we also did a handful of analyses on the data that we've been gathering over the last several months. So from that, we were able to derive these 3 themes that will be used to inform short-term and long-term projects that we as a group design and implement to support this goal. So you can see those here. It's kind of funny, but our catchphrase in the working group is coordination and collaboration. It comes up all the time, and that is a theme, again, that's kind of impacting or influencing projects. So you will see in the next slide, on the lines of coordination and collaboration is the Holiday Food Resource Guide. So this is what we've been working on as a working group. There are 3 phases. We have completed phase 1. Thanks to our wonderful working group and partners, which I will highlight in just a minute. But essentially, as many of you know, food insecurity is already such an issue in our Boston communities. Then add on the burden of purchasing food for the holidays. And so we wanted to support initiatives that were already in place with Health Leads, Vital Connections, in fact, which is the Neighborhood Food Action Collaborative. And so these are 3 food resource guides you will see listed from point 1 through 3 that we called and emailed over a span of several days. Right now, we're in the translation and printing stage. This morning, we received our Chinese and Vietnamese translations. We are very grateful for that. And next week we'll begin the dissemination, both electronic and the paper guide. So on the next slide, what you'll see, and this is where we would love to have your help, I am actually going to blast out an email, if it's okay, to maybe the steering committee or to Camille, and then we can disseminate however we choose to do so. I want to make sure we double check a couple of items on this resource guide and before we share, and we also want to be able to share the translated copies. We do have a couple working group members that are working on a graphic that can be shared on Instagram and Facebook. So you all should, please share those with your networks, and just know that those will be available next week. Again, just want to give a shout out to Health Leads, Vital Connections, in fact, East Boston Neighborhood Health Center, Austin Brighton Health Collaborative, and the Office of Food Access for this partnership opportunity. And then all of our working group members. I see several of you that are on here. You know who you are. We could not have done this without you. So thank you. We're grateful to start to kind of build a little bit of momentum with a short-term project, and look forward to the work we're going to be doing next year. So that is all for us. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. I am the intern again, but I'm actually going to be stepping in for our COEE chair. She was not able to make it this evening, so I'll go through what we've been working on in COEE the past couple of months and what we're hoping to work on as we start next year. So currently COEE has been working towards 2 kind of main goals. The first one is to create a resource bank, and this sort of resource bank will be accessible for all BFAC members, so that everyone can share through their own organizations or through their own networks these sort of like documents that we create. So some of the documents we're hoping to create are different flyers, one that's COEE specific that can then be edited if anyone needs it for one of the other working groups to talk about what they do specifically in their working group. One flyer that discusses BFAC as a resource, and then another that discusses BFAC from the perspective of, how would you become a member of BFAC? We're also looking to create a one-page sort of script, which is just there to help people in preparation for, tabling or being at other community events, just to give some ideas of what kind of information we would want to share when people ask things like, what is BFAC, or how do I get involved? So that's something that is in the works. And then we're also working to collect flyers and other materials from our BFAC members who are members of other food access organizations in the community, or who have connections if they're not a member of them or don't work with them. And so these are being collected again to kind of hand out with our own BFAC materials in sort of like swag bags or at events. So that way BFAC can kind of serve as like a hub for other food access organizations in Boston. So if you do have any flyers or materials already for your organizations, you can definitely feel free to send them to the BFAC email. I'll drop the email in the chat after I finish the little overview. The other thing that we are working on is outreach, and one of the ways that we have tried to increase our outreach efforts recently is by adding BFAC meetings to the UCB calendar, which is a calendar for people can sign up to go to different like community events and things like that. They get points that can be turned into gift cards. So it's a good way to kind of reach out and engage people who might not have heard of BFAC already. So all of our meetings are being posted through that calendar right now. And we can go on to the next slide. And then looking forward, next year, we're really hoping to put on some of our own events through COEE. We don't know yet if those will be in person or virtual, but we'll definitely be seeking ideas for, engaging events and events that reach different people in different parts of the community. So definitely the target both getting people involved in BFAC as members and getting BFAC to a position where we can help people. If you could go back one, yeah, thanks. And then we're also hoping to start having COEE members volunteer to table at other organizations' events or to attend them virtually so that we can have a greater presence in the community, and so that more people can get to know about BFAC and join our ranks and again, kind of become that hub organization that we hope to be. And the other announcement is that COEE is looking for a co-chair. This is like a really great opportunity to be involved in BFAC. Really, we still are, relatively new organization. There's a lot of different things that we can do and a lot of different ways we can kind of take the organization. So I think that, being a working group chair is a great position to really have some influence on guiding the direction of our projects. If you are creative and you like to think of, events, especially virtual events, this would be a great position for you. All of those sorts of things are very helpful for the future. So you can feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about becoming a co-chair or to BFAC generally. I'll go ahead and drop those links into the chat, the emails to email me or to email BFAC generally. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Camille. And thanks, Annalise and Christine and Chloe. Y'all can see that our working groups is where quite a bit of the work that actually happens in BFAC happens. So I know it's been posted a couple times in the chat and we'll be sure to post it again, but continue to share the membership form. That's the Airtable membership form. That's how you can also sign up for working groups, and that's a good way to stay in the know of what's happening and get to you as well on onto our email list so that we can make sure that you receive notifications about these meetings. Okay, so with that said, I am going to turn it over to Yasser to queue up any community updates if he has received any messages on that front.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So the first community update comes from Noah Lizard-Brown. Apologies if I say that incorrectly. There's Noah.
No, you actually said it perfect. You said it, yeah, you said it perfectly. Although people within my own family argue over how it's pronounced, so we're still working that one out. Hi, everyone. I'm Noah. It's really great to be here. This is my first BFAC meeting, and I'm just blown away and inspired by all the work that everyone in this group is doing. Just a quick announcement is I'm a business school student right now, and I'm working with a team that over the past year or so, we were really inspired by the Equitable Boston Food Ecosystem Project that BFAC put out. And going off of that, we did some additional research into fresh produce access specifically, and we just published our research. I just posted the link in the chat. If anyone's interested, you can scroll to the bottom of the website to download it and see what we've been up to. And based on all the work that we did, we're now launching a new initiative that is trying to create a more permanent network for the pickup of affordable produce across communities. And so the scrappy version that we're piloting in February is going to be just a network of refrigerators located at kind of crucial center points of the community, be they community centers, community colleges, et cetera, where folks can order and pick up low-priced produce. And so in terms of the announcement, we're looking for more community partners to bring on board. And so if anyone knows of any organizations that would be interested in hosting a site for the pilot, would love to chat. And we're looking for team members. And so particularly, we're trying to find a program director that wants to be more involved, but are also looking for folks that want to be tangentially involved. And so please reach out to me. I can put my email in the chat, but looking forward to getting to know everyone a little bit better.
Thank you, Noah. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Chloe from Project Bread with the community update.
Yes, hi. Oh, let me turn on my video, sorry. Yeah, so I just have a quick update that Project Bread is hiring. I know it's not quite a community update, but we are hiring a couple different positions. My department specifically is in the process of hiring a program associate. So anyone at BFAC would be a wonderful addition to the organization. And it's located in East Boston, like Gabrielle mentioned earlier. So I'm gonna put this in the chat. There's a couple different things listed here right now. And we're growing a lot. So I'd love to see some of y'all apply. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chloe, for that information. And I think the last inquiry came from Sarah Premium. Again, apologies if I said that incorrectly.
You're pretty good. Primo, so that was good. Super quick. I hope this is okay. This is more just a question. If anybody has a resource, Greater Boston Food Bank, we've been working with them, just in discussions, trying to get some more access for food for the Neighborhood Food Access Collaborative in Hyde Park, Razi, for one of our food pop-ups. They've been awesome and they've been able to get us some food, but we have not been able to secure a dock height truck to help us go get that food. And we've explored some options. And so I'm just more asking if anybody has a connection to a dockside height truck, your organization, if you know people, companies, we can pay a little bit. So we literally just can't find one to help us on this specific date and time. So please let me know. And maybe in the chat, you can email me, whatever works. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. And I did want to mention a community update on behalf of the Food Project. and some agricultural events that have been happening during this fall. We've had an Boston agricultural tour that took place in the Mattapan neighborhood. We went to Oasis on Balu, Revision Farm, and the Urban Farming Institute. And within all of these urban farms, we heard the needs of the farmers and listened to the voices of the local urban farmers to see in which ways we can all collaborate to support food production within these areas and within the city as a whole. So that Boston Ag Tour was really nice, and I hope that events like that, and initiatives like that can continue on going forward. But specifically for the food project, we have a winter market that happens every Thursday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. And it's a winter farmers market, to be more specific. And it lasts until the last week of January. There's tons of information sharing as well as fresh organic produce. It's funded by the Office of Food Access, so thank you for that involvement, as well as the MDOT, Department of Agricultural Resources. So again, thank you for your contributions. And the market itself is EBT accessible and has affordable prices for you to take home tons of, again, locally grown fresh produce. And many external vendors are welcomed. So we welcome any type of external collaboration to invite y'all to come if it's selling artisan products, information sharing of whatever type of specificity, whether it's health, food, art, anyone is welcome to be an external vendor at our greenhouse market. And lastly, the food project has some open positions posted on our website. So if you're interested in being a part of the team, just go onto the website and apply. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Yasser. And I think the moral of the story there is everyone is hiring, if you hadn't heard that news story before. Awesome. Well, I am actually here to just wrap up the meeting. So we do have a few key updates. So first and foremost, one thing to call out, you'll notice that on the left side of the screen, we're announcing our next BFAC meeting. Again, BFAC meets quarterly for public meetings. They happen in March, June, September, and December. And we are moving them to Tuesdays next year. So it'll be Tuesday, March 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. Our hope is we've had a couple potential almost in-person meetings, and Wednesdays are a really tricky spot. But actually, I'm going to pause what I'm saying and go ahead and actually kick it back to Catherine, because apparently we did miss one update. So Catherine, are you still here?
I am here. I'm sorry to disrupt
That's
the
okay.
closing.
You're
good. I was actually just going to put it into the chat, but it's just a really quick two food bank related updates and then one other update I just wanted to share. We are also hiring, so I will drop our careers page into the chat, but lots of positions, fundraising, communications. We also have a number of positions within our warehouse and transportation team, in addition to a volunteer coordinator position opening. So just wanted to flag that. And the other thing that I wanted to share, and I have shared it within the policy and advocacy group and other different forums, even in my breakout session, but we are co-leading a statewide coalition around hunger-free campuses. It's the Hunger-Free Campus Coalition, and I can drop that website into the chat, but would love to just invite people to take a peek at that, learn a little bit more about what we're doing. But the key piece is we're trying to push forward a bill and that would expand, access to food assistance or on college campuses. And so wanted to just give a quick shout out to that campaign. And then the last thing that I wanted to share, and I think that we've talked about it actually at the steering committee, But I think it could be a really great resource to many of the local organizations and potentially community members. But the state has developed this mass grown exchange platform, and it was born out of COVID. It was a way for to connect sort of consumers with suppliers and connect that supply and demand and supply chain issues that we were seeing. So basically, anyone can post sort of open available products, and consumers can go on and or organizations can go on and see if that's something that they want to purchase. But it's just a sort of a way to connect folks. I'm not doing it justice, but the state's Department of Agriculture put that together, and just invite people to look at that and learn a little bit more about that. It's just another good resource that we have available to us.
Thanks, Catherine. Okay, so yes, so I was saying that the meetings will move to Tuesdays next year. We don't have the Zoom link yet because we need to elect the new steering committee and then determine whose Zoom account we are utilizing. But we'll be sure to share the registration link for that meeting in the next month or two. And you can look to assume that they're actually, if you want to see the full meeting schedule, Camille just dropped the link into the chat, and that is our 2022 meeting schedule, which includes both our public meetings as well as any working group meetings that are currently scheduled. Some of the working groups are still determining their meeting schedule for 2022. So just know that that's a document that we'll continue to update. And then all of these meetings are also posted to the BFAC calendar, which syncs to our website, or is actually a public calendar that if you want to subscribe to, just reach out to us and we can get you the link. Okay, the other things to call out here is, as we said before, we are always looking to grow membership, and the membership form is that Airtable link that Camille dropped into the chat. That's the form that you can use to either join as a member and or join working groups. It's the same form. We get that information on the back end and make sure that your information is communicated to the working group chairs that are so they can contact you based on what groups you're interested in. And those working groups, again, is where the work happens. And so we strongly encourage folks to pick a working group or more if you've got the time. They don't generally meet on the same night, so you can technically commit to more than one if you're interested. And again, just calling out that we have 2 working groups which are looking for co-chairs, both our fundraising group as well as our community outreach, education, and engagement working group. And then you've seen the incredible work that Camille has done over the last few months. We are an all-volunteer steering committee. We could not do this without an intern to support the work. And we are currently looking for an intern to take over the role starting in January. And that position would be running from January through about May before we bring in a summer intern. So if you know anyone that's interested, the link to the position description is in the chat. It is unfortunately an unpaid position, but again, as we work to build our fiscal sponsorship and our fundraising, we hope to eventually make that a paid position. And I just jumped ahead there for a second, but we do have a website. It's bostonfoodaccesscouncil.org. You can always find information and updates there. We'll be sure to post materials, the recording, and other resources from tonight's meeting there by the beginning of next week. And then lastly, you'll see here that we do have social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we would encourage you to engage with us there, and also make sure that you're following us so that we can follow you back, and we'll be able to repost any materials that your organizations or your communities are sharing. And the last thing I'm just going to drop into the chat really quickly, because we did unfortunately have a couple candidates that weren't able to attend this evening, and the election is now going to be open. Camille shared the link in the chat earlier, and I'm just going to try and repost it really quickly. But the election is open. We will be sharing the election link out via an email later this evening, so you do not need to vote via this form right now. But the key piece here is that the candidate summaries might help you determine if you wanted to hear from a few more folks. So that is the link to the form. Hopefully I clicked the right one. But otherwise, thank you all so much for being here this evening. Thank you for your energy, for your commitment to BFAC, and for your time, especially during the busy holiday season. Hope everyone continues to have a good end of the year, and we will see you all again in March.